I will just tell you a little bit more about myself. My name is Jonathan Tucker. I am a Google certified trainer and I'm based at Spring Cottage Primary School. This will be my second year at Spring Cottage. I've also previously worked at Clifton and Marfleet as well. And I became a Google certified trainer last year when I came to Spring Cottage at first. So I first came having only used iPads really before, and it was just Seesaw and J2E were really the applications that I used before, and Purple Mash. So I hadn't ever really used Google for education. However, upon coming to Spring Cottage, my head teacher presented me with Chromebooks and said this is the way the school are going. So I went away and did my research, became a Google certified educator, which is the first step, and then worked my way through the courses there. And I've really immersed myself in the Google way, really. So that is what I'm hoping to introduce to you today, the basics of using G Suite for education. And what I'm going to do to start with is start with a little survey just to get everyone ready. So I said at the beginning of the slides that you need another device. It could be a phone, it could be a tablet. So what I'm going to ask you to do is sign on to this link. I'm just going to post it into the chat. If you could type that into your mobile device, and we are going to do a quick survey using an application that I like to use called Poll Everywhere. So if I just present my screen for you, okay, and you should be able to see this now. So pollev.com/Spring Cottage 385, but there is no E in Spring Cottage at the end. It's just cut off there. And what I'd like you to do is log on to that. You don't have to put your name. I think you can skip and keep it anonymous. And I'd like you to name a quality that you want to inspire in your students. Just while I let some others in, there we go. So one quality, just one word answer. Enthusiasm, great answer there. Thoughtfulness, love it. Problem solving. So when it comes up as two words, sometimes it does split off as well. So if you're going to do two words, don't put a space in. That's my fault for not saying that. Creativeness, ambition, love it. Resilience, empathy, and as you can see, the more common the word, the greater it becomes, the larger it becomes. Artistic, I like that one. Curiosity, that is something that I am a really big supporter of. Creativeness, perseverance, self-esteem, that's a great answer as well. Fantastic. And as you can see here, the word cloud grows bigger. I really like to use Poll Everywhere. It's one of my favorite applications, especially when we're collaborating to collect keywords. It's not a Google app as such, but it's obviously you can share the links on Google Classroom to your students. And I'm going to turn my phone off because it's a Google phone. It just keeps going off. So I'm just going to click, there we go, turn it off. And what we'll do is give you another 30 seconds or so just to add any further words. Put in determination, ambition, artistic drive, intellect. Some fantastic answers. And I'm really positive that you have already been able to do that. The poll is full now, so there's no more responses on this one. But you know, many of these skills, I'm sure, many of these characteristics, many of these qualities you have already inspired into your students from your previous placement, and I'm sure that during this term you'll be able to get that message across to your new students as well. Okay, so second question, this should also come up on your screen. Have you delivered online or blended learning yet? So yes or no? Some of you will have already delivered some form of online learning if you've had year group bubbles close. Some of you may not. Oh, I've just locked it. Hang on, let me unlock it. There we go. It should be ready now. So we should see maybe a little bit of a mix here. Somebody's in between. I really like this form of the survey as well from Poll Everywhere, because you can put GIFs, images, and it's just a little bit more visual for the students as well. So I know if I'm doing a plenary and I'm asking the students to vote on something, you can maybe put smiley faces, traffic light systems. I like the yay or nay. The students seem to really like that. So really good use on Poll Everywhere as well. So as I can see, a really good mixture of people who have delivered online blended learning and those who haven't had the opportunity to do so yet. But tonight will be a great way to learn a little bit more, and more specifically Google for Education. Okay, and this one then, use the right GIF to identify how comfortable you are with technology. So you could be the baby crying, you could be Carlton, it could be a nice little thumbs up, or maybe a little bit here, a little bit there, we shall see. And this will be the last one for now, but there is one more further slide that I would like to check in with everyone at the end. So I'm pretty sure, you know, obviously everyone using tech to submit assignments at university and things, you will have somewhat a background with technology. It might be more specific to Google for Education, but this is more technology as a whole. So how comfortable are you just using and managing technology? Great stuff. Right, what I'll do is I will leave that there for now. It might move as we go along in the session, who knows? I'll come back to our slides. So in this session, we will cover the introduction to G Suite for Education. So I'm going to run through the units of the Getting Started for Google for Education, which is actually on the Google for Education website. I'm the facilitator of that course, so I will go through the units of that course, but more specifically, I will focus on Google Meet, which is what we're on now, and Google Classroom as well. We're going to talk about how to navigate G Suite for Education, how to navigate Google as a whole. And I've also got 5 additional applications in which you can apply to, because it's a web-based program, you can apply to Google for Education, or you can even use it in, you know, if you use J2E or Purple Mash or any of these other applications, you could even use it for that as well. And then I'm also going to talk about the Google Certified Educator course, which I'm another facilitator of, and that is basically the first step in your career as a Google expert, as it were. So what is G Suite for Education? Well, it is a suite of cloud computing, productivity, and collaboration tools. Many of the tools combine really well and they can be intertwined together, but each of them sort of represent the traditional Microsoft apps that we were more used to when going through school. I know I use Microsoft Word quite a lot, and Excel, and a lot of the applications reflect those as well. So it's very, very similar in many ways. And there's also some additional apps which I found extremely useful, which is completely different from what I've ever used before. I've done this to all of the staff at my school and across the other training that I've done previously. It is quite a daunting experience when looking at something brand new and having to deliver it at a level in which the students need to, the pupils need to understand, because online learning is a difficult thing and it is quite confusing. But what I'd like us to think instead is to flip that into a positive mindset and think, right, I will explore the features and I will see what is on offer. So basically today we are going to cover just the tip of the iceberg, and if we dig deep into the Google for Education apps, we can research and find out so much more. There is loads more that I would love to tell you about the Google for Education apps, but we only have until 4:30. So what I'm going to do as well at the end of the session is provide you with a feedback form and also my email address so that you can reach out at any point and ask some further questions, because this is the start of your journey using Google for Education and we are all in this together. And the aim is to really, as a group of teachers, get through this really difficult time and make sure the pupils get the best deal possible. So what I'm going to do is also introduce you to Jamboard. So Jamboard is very similar to Nearpod if you've used an application like that before. Nearpod is a presentational tool, very similar to Prezi as well. Some of you may have encountered Prezi before, but Jamboard is more of a collaboration tool. And you have a set amount of frames that you can use, and pupils can contribute using post-it notes and also drawings and keywords. So what I'm going to do is share with you the link to the Jamboard in the chat and on your device. So I'm just going to copy and paste this into the chat. You should all be able to get onto Jamboard now. And what I'd like us to do is, as you can see just here, you have the different tools that you can use in Jamboard. And what I would like you to do is select the sticky note here, and you can either press it or you can click Control-Shift-P and type in which of the Google apps you have already used. Because some of you may, like I say, have used the technology before, Some of you may have encountered some of the applications, and if you haven't, then at least you can put Google Meet, because that is what we are using now. So Google Docs, Google Meet. I've got some drawings there. Try and click the sticky note on the side, Control Shift and P. Just on the side here. So you click the sticky note. You can maybe type in your option and it just comes up there, look, and then you can move it around. And again, it's one of those applications which I really enjoy using, because it's a great one to collect keywords and collect some ideas and collect some answers. But when in terms of remote learning, it is really, really important to show the children how to use it, because obviously, if you can see, I can move anybody's post-it note. Just making sure those children who like to let's say, keep the lessons interesting, we'll start moving everybody's post-it notes around and deleting post-it notes, deleting people's ideas. So it's just really important to set that stall out for them. But again, like I say, it's a really good tool to use, and you can see the icons. So in your school organization unit, you should be able to see their email address or their icons to show which child had picked which idea. So it's a great one to say, well done, Ben. You've chosen a fantastic answer there, and you are able to provide that feedback as well as the modeling as well. Because if you think about it, if you're adding lots of keywords and ideas and sentence starters, the pupils can refer back to this throughout the whole lesson, access the Jamboard, and be able to refer back to these ideas. Because I know some of you will be live teaching, some of you will be recording lessons, but if you collaborate live with the students and they put their ideas up on the Jamboard, they can come back to it at any time, whether it's even if it's the next day. It's up there for as long as you want it to be. It's a document. So that gives me a really good idea, a great viewpoint of what many of you have already used. It's mainly Docs, Google Meet, as I can see, Google Drive. So we won't spend too much time talking about those kinds of apps. We will dip into them slightly, but mainly, like I say, I want to focus on Google Meet and Google Classroom. So that's brilliant. What I've got is, of course, I've posted in the chat, and I will do again at the end of the session, Units 1 to 8 of getting started with Google for Education. And I'm more than happy to share the slides for today. Because, like I say, it's basically on the Google for Education website, and I've formulated it into the slides to deliver it properly. As you see, Unit 3 is Google Classroom. What I've done is move Unit 3 to the end, just because I want to spend a little bit more time on Google Classroom. So Google Drive, we're going to talk about what the Drive is, how to access it, and how we are going to share files as well. If I go into the Google homepage, you can access any of the Google apps by signing in and making sure you are signed in at the top. But then also you can click the Google Apps tab here. And in the Google Apps tab, it has all of the different features that your organizational unit has. As well as that, you can just type in the URL. So I can either click Google Drive there, or I can click drive.google.com, and it just comes up as so. There we go. So for Google Drive, what we have, of course, is our work that we have been producing. It has our recent documents, so our quick access. We also have your school shared drive, so my school shared drive here, so for the different year groups, and your personal drive there. You also have the files that are shared with yourselves. So this is some of the work that the children have either posted in Google Classroom or collaboration tools with your team. And you also have what's called a priority drive. And these are some of the workspaces that you have been working on. So it comes up with maybe some of the more recent documents that you have been working on. Last year I had an art observation, and I wanted to make sure I could find it quickly, because a lot of my ICT stuff and my training stuff will be the more recent documents that I access. So I created a workspace and I added that there as well. I also collaborated with the co-ICT lead for last year, and I made sure that I created a workspace in which we could both work together on. And also, of course, being a year 6 teacher, we had to access the the SATs spreadsheets to make sure we kept track of our pupil learning. So the Priority Drive is something that is a really good tool to use. In terms of creating a file, you can simply press New, and from Google Drive, it actually lets you create different Google Drawings, your Google Docs, all of the different applications that you can use. You can do it straight from the drive, which is really, really simple to use. You can also upload files from your PC or your laptop. So if you've done something at home on a Word document, you can upload it there. However, if you do have a Google account, it doesn't matter where you access your documents, it's cloud-based. So even if I've had it once where I've left my laptop at home and I've had like an observation or something the next day, I've just been able to sign in on my PC to my Google account and all my files have been there. So I find it really useful in terms, I was one of those as a student who always misplaced my memory stick, and my whole life was on the memory stick. And once I discovered the Google Drive, things was just so much easier. You can also create folders to organize. So I've got certain folders on there as well. And to share a file, just simply what you can do, for example, if I wanted to share my class website, I would click it and I would press share here, or I could just simply right click and share. It allows me to organize the files. I've also shared it with my class, so my class are able to access, but also I can change the link. So what I've done with the Jamboard and the slides for today, I have changed the link and shared it with anybody with the link can view. So you're not able to edit it, but you can view the file there. So that basically covers organizing files. The great thing about Google Drive is as well, if I wanted to organize it, I could drag and drop it into a different file. I could group files together. I could have shortcuts. So I can even make a copy of the file. So there is lots that you can do on Google Drive. One of the main uses of Google Drive, which I like, is that it's integrated, and you'll notice this with docs, sheets, and slides, that the calendar, your keep notes, and your tasks are all there as well. So it could be on the tasks that you maybe put complete spreadsheet, and I've done that. Plan English. Again, you've got all of these jobs to do, and as you complete them, you can just tick them off and they disappear as well. It just keeps things fresh for you. I'm going to show you another way to use them when we talk about that in Google Docs. So if you have any questions about Google Drive, just fire them away in the chat. If not, we will move on to the next one. Good. I think we're okay, aren't we? Good stuff. Excellent. So, like I say, what I've got on each unit of this, if you're a little bit unsure, is at the end of each unit, I have got a Google Forms, and you can just click the hyperlink. If you download the slides at the end of the presentation, you can go and do a little sort of quiz based on each unit, and they're basically matching the units of the Getting Started for Google for Education. So it's definitely something to put on in terms of CPD on your CVs and in your teacher folders. So Google Docs, we're going to talk now about how to access Google Docs, all of the different uses for Google Docs. And very similar to the Drive, you can either create your own Google Doc. You can use the Google Apps tab as well, or you can simply type in docs.google.com. And the great thing about Google Docs is that you can either begin with a template or you can go on to recent documents. When I open up a document, many different uses for Google Docs. We'll probably dive into this a little bit more when it gets around to Google Classroom. And most of you have used Docs before anyway, but it's very, very similar to Microsoft Word. When I'm asking the pupils to use Google Docs, what I'll like them to do quite a lot of the time is use keep notes or tasks. So keep notes is basically your note taking, quite a little bit like the iPhone notes, to be honest. So what we've got is your keep notes, and you can always open a new note, and you can talk about, you can take notes from the lesson, you can copy links, anything like that. But the tasks is what I like the most. I click on that. I use tasks for the pupils in Google Docs for more of a success criteria. So if I'm asking them, for example, to write a informal letter, I might ask them to use informal language. Well, I'll just be one moment because the caretaker's decided to start drilling just outside the classroom. Oh, someone's closing the door from there. There we go. Always happens, doesn't it, when there's drilling there? Yeah, training tonight. Let's start drilling. Yep, brilliant. So we got sorry, where was I? Informal letter. So we've got informal language. You could say contractions, using contracted words. You could just be maybe reminding them of basic skills. Obviously, you'd probably do a lot more of a detailed success criteria. And what you could do is, as the pupil is completing their work, they could just tick it off. And it's a really good visual way of ticking off their success criteria to make sure that their document is a successful one and that it matches all of your expectations when delivering the lesson. To share a Google Doc, quite often the tasks will be set in Classroom anyway, so you will already be able to see it. But if a pupil creates some extra work at home, or if you are using docs for planning and you were to share with somebody, you would press share, and obviously you give the document a name, and then you would type in the person that you are sharing the document with. So I'm going to use Rob, who's obviously a student at my school, as an example, who I know is on the call, and I would select in there. I would add him as an editor. I can maybe leave a little message, here is today's planning, and send it across. Alternatively, if you wanted to share it as a link, you could click share as a link or get link and press copy, and then be able to paste that to them as well. So Google Docs, again, has so many different tools. If I click on tools tab up there, you can see that you can do lots of different things. But what I like to use, again, for some of the pupils who maybe have special educational needs, is the voice typing tool. So you can click the voice typing tool and click to speak, and it should pick up your voice and detect it to type in a sentence. So there we go, and it does it pretty well. There might be some grammatical errors and things that you need to correct, but if you select tools, voice typing, it can do that for you on there as well. So another really good use of Google Docs. As you can see here, you can change the way in which you view a document. So the pupils would more than likely be the editors of the document, and you could click suggesting. For example, let's just, if I click this, and I clicked, let's just say I went to the shops with Jack. Okay, and my pupil's written that sentence. I could mark it in suggesting mode and highlight the word and press comment. So I could say, check your spelling or word, for example. Okay. You could also maybe comment some more comments there, and it would all come up as the comment history. Okay. You could also suggest changes. So, for example, if you select the word and start typing, you could select the alternative word that they could use, and it would come up here with replace. If they click tick, then it automatically changes it. And even though it does disappear from here, you can view the comment history and see all of the marking and feedback that you have provided with the student on there as well. So that basically goes through Google Docs. Just on the last one on Google Docs, if you press File and you press Download, you can download it as a PDF, Microsoft Word document. So there's different ways in which you can convert the document, and also you can make it available offline. So if the pupils go home, if they maybe begin a task in school, I'm thinking more of a blended learning or a bubble closure, they could then take the device home or use their own device to access this offline as well. So if you have any questions regarding Google Docs, please pop it in the chat and we will move on. So Unit 3, of course, we're going to lead to the end. Google Forms is an amazing tool. I use it quite a lot for things such as arithmetic tests, course feedback, which you guys, I'll be sending to you at the end, and that continuous assessment of students. Forms is a surveying tool that allows you to assess pupil progress, gather data, and it's just that constant feedback. We use it to survey the parents as well, so we'll send out a link and get their feedback on remote learning. Also, little exit tickets is what I like to use it before the lockdowns when we had the children in school. And it's just a really good way of checking how the pupils are doing, especially if you have your worksheets. You can put your worksheets onto Google Docs, and if you pre-populate the answers, it will self-mark it for you, which is really, really useful for workload as well. So if I just show you this feedback form, which I've done, you can see there's a varied amount of questions. So you could ask them to pop their email address in. You could ask them to maybe assess themselves on a scale. Short answer texts are a great answer as well, great way of seeing quick, short answers in maybe maths lessons. And you can also ask them to answer in the forms of paragraphs and many other different forms. Now, if I was to go on to, let's go into forms.google.com to create a new form, you could create a quiz. And this is where, you know what, actually, I will show you a previous one. I think that'll be the easiest way to do it. So I've got an arithmetic paper here, which I did with the year sixes. So I had a short answer text for each question. I basically used an arithmetic paper for those who were in my maths group. As you can see, it's 40 points, just like it would be in a SATS arithmetic paper. And what I had as well was the pre-populated answers already selected, and I would offer a point for that answer, so that when the pupils came to do an arithmetic test, it would mark it for you, and you didn't need to do any marking. It was just basically all you had to do was click on the responses tab, and you would find out how the children did. You could also see the analysis of the questions, so you had a QLA, or frequently missed questions. You could also check each individual question, see what each child voted for or chose. You could also check the individual child as well, so they'll put the name on the bottom. And one of the things that I gathered from this is actually it's better to just put the name at the top, because if you're looking here and looking at the score, it's just a really, really quick way of checking what mark each child got. And as you can see here, look, a child got 30 out of 40. And you can scroll through. It's a really effective way. You can also populate into a spreadsheet if you want to, if you're going to provide the evidence into your teacher file as well. Does anybody have any questions regarding Google Forms? Let's have a look. Not as of yet. That's absolutely fine. That was a whistle-stop tour. Basically, one of the other features, which I'll quickly show you before we move on, is that you can attach things such as YouTube videos, pictures, instructional information. You can import questions from a previous Google form as well. But I quite like to use the YouTube URLs, especially, for example, if I'm doing an arithmetic paper and somebody doesn't get the multiplication, I could put in the answer key, answer feedback, and attach a YouTube video about multiplication. Then the child can watch that back. If they got it wrong, they would be able to watch it back and think, right, that's how I do it. And you can maybe select the option to have another go. So I think Google Forms is such a brilliant way to assess pupil learning. You can even post diagrams to show you working out, all of those things to give the children the input that they can constantly refer back to. All right. So again, there's a skills check on Google's Forms. So if you wanted to go back and have a little look at it, you could always do that as well. So Google Slides. It's very, very similar to Microsoft PowerPoint. So what we're going to do is find out how to create a presentation, how to add and edit content, how to present and share Google Slides. I'm obviously doing this presentation on Google Slides. So once again, slides.google.com is where you need to go for that. And you can also choose from a range of templates, or you can even go back to ones that you've already used before. So if I go back onto, just go on to writing a newspaper report. Just a very, very basic one. What we're going to do is you can obviously attach all of the transitions like you would in the normal Microsoft PowerPoint. And the great thing about Google Drive is that you can, if you already have a PowerPoint, you can upload it to your Drive and then open it in Google Slides, so there's no work lost there as well. One of the great things about Google Slides is that you can insert, and you can insert things such as YouTube videos, Because one of the main things with online learning for me is I'm seeing a lot of different schools saying, go away and research this, or go onto YouTube and look for this, or here is a YouTube link for this. And there's a certain safeguarding element there, because with YouTube, obviously, it can autoplay into the next one and the next one. And before you know it, the children are watching something completely different to what you wanted them to, but also they could stumble upon inappropriate videos. So if you actually put the correct video in here, or attach it from your Google Drive, a video that you already have recorded, it just keeps them on the slides and keeps them where they need to be, so they don't, they're not unnecessarily browsing the internet. And the more open they are to that sort of thing, the more risk that is attached to that as well. In terms of images, you can also select and add images from your Google Drive. Your photos, you can upload them from your computer as well. And you can also attach audio instructions, so it could be that you are talking somebody through. Let's see where I was. Here we go. So, yeah, lots of different add-ons as well that you can use. I mentioned Nearpod earlier. Nearpod is now a premium service, I believe. They might go back to a free service, but Nearpod was basically it's a slideshow piece of software. You can also use Pear Deck. Some of you might have heard of Pear Deck before. And those applications basically allow you to put quizzes in the middle of your Google Slides. I like to sort of come away from the slides, as you've seen, and use things such as Polev and Jamboard, and we're going to do a Kahoot at the end as well. But I think this could be a useful one to keep the children on the slides using a different add-on, and it just basically imports quizzes and quick surveys and other different tools that just make your presentation pop a little bit more. And as you can see, just like the rest of the Google apps, you can have your keep notes, you can have your success criteria. So if the children are making their own Google Slides about something, they could have their success criteria as well, and you are still able to comment and mark it just like you would on Google Docs as well. So once again, another skills check there. Google Sheets is very much the same as Microsoft Excel, so we won't spend too much time on this. I've got a Google Sheet here in which we've got some hyperlinks that take you to all of the skills tests that I've forwarded you so far. So what I'm going to do is share that link again at the end, and then if you ever want to refer back to any of the skills tests just to test yourself maybe on Classroom or on Slides, you're able to click the link and take the test, and then again it's just something that you can show in your folder that you've gone away and done. You might be someone who isn't as confident in Google Drive. You take the test, you get full mark, you think, right, I've done some extra CPD on there, and it just makes you look really good when presenting it in your folders as well. You can create formulas, very, very similar to Excel, in which you can get a set of data and you can have get an average of that data. You can create pie charts, bar charts, all of these different things. What I really like about Google Sheets is that it is embedded into Google Forms, so that if I wanted to create a spreadsheet for my arithmetic paper results, I could create a new spreadsheet and it would generate a varied amount of data. Now, one main use for Google Sheets for me is actually integrated with Google Meet as well. And I've got an extension on my Google Apps called, well, we'll answer this question in a moment, Nicole, called Meet Attendance. As you can see, hopefully you can see my screen, and my extension Google Meet Attendance is in the middle here. So I installed it, and I'll show you how to install extensions later on in the presentation. And if you click on this, it pre-populates a register of everybody who is on the call. So I'm able to then take my register and send it to the office. So I really do like Meet Attendance. So that's one to maybe jot down and pop. If you use Google Meet, definitely use Meet Attendance. So Nicole's quickly asked, on the quiz, would you be able to see what the child had answered? Yes. So I mentioned that I had the child's name as a question, and you'd have to set it as a question. But I always put it at the bottom of the sheets. And that's something that I've reflected on and thought, actually, if I'm quickly skimming through the children and children's responses and seeing what they got, it's probably better to put their name at the top as the first question. Obviously, you don't need to put a mark towards it unless you want to give the children a lot of confidence, give them a mark for putting the name on. But yeah, definitely pop the name at the beginning. Then obviously you see their name and you see their score that's associated with that. Okay, so yeah, Meet Attendance, definitely one to use for the register. So there is a little bit more that you can dive into with Google Sheets, but obviously we are running short of time and I want to really dig deep into Google Classroom. So Google Drawings, very, very similar to Microsoft Paint. I won't be spending any time on this, but you can, again, look at the slides, see what the different tools are towards it. It's very, very similar to Microsoft Paint. So for those who have used Paint before, Google Drawings is a good one. It's good to make logos, different images that you can add into Google Docs, Google Slides, or Google Sheets. So basically what you have to do is once you've created your drawing, you can press Insert, Drawing, and it'll come up as a recent file. Google Sites is something that I was really excited to show you today because it is just an amazing showcase of work, and especially for the children who are a little bit younger, I'm thinking Key Stage 1, Google Sites is such a good visual tool because it might be that they can't do streams and streams of writing on Google Docs. It might not be that they can create their own presentation. But with Google Sites, it's like an online display board of the work that they have done. And the parents can just simply add photographs and videos of what they've done. And the website can be published. So, for example, we did a showcase website last year with my Year 6 class, and we launched it on Parents' Evening, and we published it on the internet so that they could ask their grandparents to go on and access the website. And it was just a really good showcase of the learning that they were doing. However, you can keep the websites private so that they don't get published on the internet and only you can see them. So again, it gives them the feeling of making a website and really showcasing the work, but it doesn't necessarily have that e-safety factor, especially with the younger children if there's going to be photographs and videos on there. So let me just show you how to get onto there. You would either use the Google Apps tab to go on the sites, or you can go on sites.google.com. And there's lots of different templates that they can use as well. If I go back to my website from last year, if I can find it. Can't seem to find it on there. But what I will do is I'll show you this one that we did start. Oh no, there it is actually. Let me go back. Because the Year 6 example from last year was absolutely fantastic. So CXTU. I think this is it. Yeah, so basically what we did, it has been changed slightly, but we had a Welcome to our Year 6 theme showcase. So we created our front cover, we attached some photographs, we had our different topics at the top as well. We could do, if I just preview it, you could see what it looks like on the internet. So Google Sites gives you an indication of what it would look like on a large screen, a tablet, or a mobile phone as well. So it gives the children a really good preview of what their website would look like. It gives them an authentic audience in which to present their work as well. It's not just doing work for the sake of things. And as you can see here, we've got some fantastic photographs of the pupil work that they've been doing. We've also got the Year 6 home learning in which some of the children contributed in. And you can also integrate things such as the calendar, the Google Calendar. We did a topic on the rainforest, but our main focus really was Hull at War, because obviously last year got cut short with the first lockdown. But we did manage to do a really good theme showcase on World War I and World War II. So we had here some videos. We had different links. You're able to embed Google Forms, so the children made quizzes for their parents when they went on. And have been very, very generous and offered 30 points per question there. But they're able to get that instant feedback. And it shows as well, especially with the Google Slides that you can attach, some of the work that they do is showcased properly. So some wonderful work by the pupils. I just show you through World War I. Again, lots of photographs, lots of information. Let's go to World War II. And we basically, it was a working document. So from the beginning, we literally just did World War I. That was our first topic in Autumn 1. And then as we built it up, we managed to create all of these different, for example, biography about Winston Churchill, and the children did such an amazing job. We also managed to look at our class text, which was the boy in striped pajamas. So some really, really good information there on Google Sites. Now, if I come out of preview mode, I will just reinforce some of the features that you can use. So it works really well because there's preset layouts. It's really easy to navigate. So for example, the parents at home, if they were struggling with home learning, you could say, look, if your child does anything extra, such as baking, a Joe Wicks workout, anything like that, you can just ask them to click the images tab and then add 4 photographs of them doing that work that day. It could be if they do some writing that you embed something from the Google Drive. So a Word document, sorry, a Google Doc. It could be a slideshow like I showed you early on. Could even be a Google form that they create for maybe their teacher to answer. You also have the Pages tab here, in which you can create brand new pages. So what our aim was to create Hull at War, build up to the rainforest, which was our spring term topic. And then obviously we went off in March, so then we had to create a Year 6 home learning one when we were providing the home learning for them last year. And there's also preset themes as well to make it really easy for your children to design a really good aesthetic website in which then they can publish if they want to the internet, and it's there for everybody to see. So, do we have any questions regarding Google Sites? One of my favorite Google apps, definitely. Don't worry if you do have one. We can always answer them at the end as well. Okay, so Google Classroom, this was the main focus of today, because I know this is the means in which a lot of the online learning is delivered, which is why I wanted to leave it to sort of towards the end of the unit and spend a little bit of time on it. Google Classroom is basically the hub for all the work that the children produce. It's almost like, again, a kind of social media page in a way, in which you can update your stream with the work, with different content for the students to see. But also, they can keep in touch with their class as well. I think, did somebody have their hand up or ask a question? Have a look. No. Okay, so we're going to basically talk about what Google Classroom is. Some of you may have seen it before, some of you may have not. We're going to talk about how to create a class, how to add pupils to the class and teachers, how to create different activities and provide feedback effectively as well. So once again, you can access it via the Google Apps tab, or you can use the name of the app, .google.com. So for a lot of you, you'll probably be able to see just 1 or 2 classes. My role is ICT coordinator, so I need to be able to see everybody's classroom so that I can obviously just continue to observe and make sure everything's looking really good. We have got a staff training page, so I will use that maybe as part of the example. I'll make an example of my class as well. So what we've got is our classroom stream. So this is sort of the part in which you can, so my partner teacher, Mr. Troke, has posted some assignments. As you can see, he's also posted some resources. I've also updated the stream today with a music lesson, our Google Meet video link, which we meet every day and we do our live lessons. And also, as you can see here, I've posted assignments, but in a differentiated manner, so you can post to specific amounts of students. You don't have to post to everybody. We've also got things such as PE lessons, and the children can share photographs as well. Okay, now there's just an example here from Liam as well in my class. He created a marble run, so he wanted to share that with the class. So those little things of home learning that people, obviously the activities that they do at home, they want to share, and it's just it's really, really useful. I've had somebody who also hasn't been engaging with the online learning, so that she's requesting her books from home as she's having some problems with the computer. So it's a really good communication tool between the teacher and the pupil as well. Now, the great thing about Google Classroom is that you can manage the settings so that you can have, for example, the Google Meet. Every single day, I reset the Google Meet code so that once I have left the call, the pupils cannot go back onto the call. And you can also make that not visible to students so that when they log on, they can't see it. But it doesn't matter for me as such, because my organisational unit, my school, have had the setting on that pupils cannot join a Google Meet before teachers. So for example, I have to start the Google Meet before that link becomes live. So you have to check if you've got a Google Classroom account at your school, what their settings are. But I would recommend that you check that out just so that the pupils aren't having a Google Meet with each other outside of school time. The classwork tab is also really useful because you can have many different subjects and topics. What we're doing, because of the amount of work that we're posting on, we're actually creating home learning as one topic, because if any child needs a booklet printing off, it's then less of a workload for us. We can just literally straight away just print it off, and it's all in one. So if I just show you our home learning books, so we have the order of our day basically on maths, and we sort of vary with the maths really. I like to use Google Forms for maths, but the maths teacher of year 6 is more keen on just having it in the boxes there, which is fine because you can, of course, like I said before, use suggesting mode and mark that as well. We have then the reading and English and theme as well. So, so a lot of the resources were done in slightly different subjects. For example, I've got English and I'm doing a newspaper report. So I want the children to work on that over a number of days. So I've basically done that as an independent task on Google Classroom. So it's up to you on how you work it with your school. Your school might decide to do it as a booklet, and each day is a new booklet because then you're working on something different. However, if you're working on a longer term project like I am with the newspaper, it might be that you actually create it in a subject like I've done for English. Let me just show you about creating an assignment. So what you need to do is on the classwork page, you're going to press create and assignment. And this is where you are able to set your work. So for example, it could be, let's just use newspaper report as an example. And I like to use my our Walt, just because then it's really, really easy for people who are coming to observe just to see your learning objective there as well. Obviously, you're going to put some instructions in there for the children as well. Quite often we teach live, but then we also attach an instructional video. So we will basically give them the Meet link at first, and then once we've recorded the Meet link like I'm doing now, I'm recording the Google Meet, I will then post it and update it in the comments here, so that the children who do come on late can revisit that. I know some schools are doing it where they're recording their input and then teaching live, but I think in terms of workload, there's no point. You can obviously you teach it live and then record the input, because one of the dangers with recording it first, then teaching it live, is that sometimes the children like to just get on straight away, finish all of the work, and then they're done for the day. And really, we need to provide them with, say, around 4 hours of school work each day. So we want to make sure that we're effectively providing that as well. What you can do here is obviously select the classes. So I'm going to select both year 6 classes to do my newspaper report. But if you select one class, it gives you the option to select a certain amount of students. So I might select my high ability pupils to do the less scaffolded work, as it were. Points I wouldn't worry about. I don't give points for my assignments. I just provide them with feedback. The topic is important, so I'm going to put it into English because it's a long-term project. But what I won't do is put a due date on this, because from experience, from the feedback that we've got from parents, it provides too much pressure and stress. So we'd just like to say that we'd look to finish this newspaper report by Wednesday, but you can continue it in your spare time outside of the lessons if you want to. So in terms of what you can add resources. So the Google Drive, if you preset a template, you can add it. So for example, let's, for argument's sake, there we go, here's my newspaper template. So I'm going to put newspaper template here, insert. And what I'm going to do is make sure I select this tab here and put make a copy for each student, because then this creates an individual copy for that pupil, and it makes it a lot easier when it comes to marking it. Now, we hardly started newspapers today, but what I will do is show you in a minute how to give feedback. So if you click the arrow here, you can either assign it now, you can schedule it, or save it as a draft. I'm going to discard the draft because I don't need to carry on with that. In terms of providing the feedback for the children, you can view the tasks that you have already posted. And if a child hands in the work, which I'm surprised to see that one has done already, it's really, really difficult because they need it back, handed back to them. So I need to press return so that they can continue to edit that document. I think what she's done is she's finished for the day and handed it in to me, which is fine, but once a child has handed in the work to you, they cannot edit it until you've marked and returned it to them. So if I'm looking at the student work and I can see that all of my pupils have their individual copy because I pressed make a copy for each student, I can click on an individual's newspaper report and I can see the work that they have done so far. So as I can see here, he has done his newspaper name and he's also done his headline. So what I can do here is either add a private comment here, so I can maybe add a private comment like so, or I can even, because it automatically puts you in suggesting mode, click on something and suggest itself. Okay, let me just, it's not letting me do it now. You can also add it to a comment bank. So I could put here, add to comment, and I can put, can you avoid repetition? And then, for example, he's used boy a couple of times in a row there. So I might just ask him to change that there as well. So I've got some different comments for him there too. And the great thing about it is you can scroll through the children in your class and check. And as it's happening during a lesson, this is updated live. So you can see what they're doing live as they are working through it. Okay. You can also quickly skip to somebody. So if, for example, Isabel in my class asked for help, I could quickly skim through, find Isabel's work and see where she is stuck from on there as well. Okay. So that is basically using the assessment and feedback on Google Classroom. You can also see the history and what they've edited before, some of the changes that they've made. However, if they're really, really stuck, you can click this and click editing and you can begin to help them in that context as well. If I go back to the home page, I'm just going to quickly show you how to create a class on Google Classroom. You can press add to create or join a class. And this is where I would recommend, for example, I know some of you may have some focus children and target children that you are working on in terms of your portfolio, your teaching portfolio. It could be that you go and create a Google class for key target children or something along those lines. And then once you've created the class, it will appear on your Google Classroom. You will be a teacher and you are able to add other teachers and also pupils to that group. Just taking a little bit of a while to sort. There we go. So once you've created your Google Classroom, of course, you can post something to your class here, and you can post to either all students or individual students and add resources. But in the people tab, you can add your fellow teachers. So I'm going to use Rob again because I know he's on the call as an example, and invite him as a teacher to my Google Classroom. I may also want to choose pupils who I'm going to have in my class and invite them to my classroom as well. I won't confuse them by adding them to a new classroom, but that is how you add students as well. And like I said before, you can use the classwork tool to create assignments and add it to the classwork tool there. So, are there any questions regarding Google Classroom? No problem, Gracie. Thank you very much. Remember, this meeting's been recorded, so you can access the rest of it at a later point. We will be finishing in the next 5 or 10 minutes as well, because we're a little bit later getting started today. So 5 useful apps that you can use with Google for Education. So I mentioned before extensions such as Meet Attendance, and there's also some verbal feedback. And this one here, Talk and Comment, is one I discovered today. You can go onto Chrome Web Store, and the Chrome Web Store, if you click the link, it gives you extensions that you can use. And Meet Attendance is the one I use to take a register, which has already been added here. So all you would do is click it and add it there as well. Chrome Web Store is definitely something for you to explore, to download add-ons and extensions to your work. Google Meet is, of course, what we are using at the moment. It's a fantastic conferencing tool. And like I said before, you can use Jamboard with it. You can use Meet Attendance, and it's a great way to communicate with your class. What we like to do in our school is deliver the lessons live on Google Meet, but also save the recordings. And we also turn the microphones and cameras off, but we interact on the chat with the pupils throughout the day. So we're providing them with that regular feedback. And it's a great way to check in with your class in the morning for a register, for example, because it is really difficult for them because they're missing school so much. Obviously, many of them may not have even met you before because you're at a new school. So it's just a really good way of interacting with the class and sort of really giving them that feeling of being in school, even though they're not, they still get that warmth and a welcome each morning as they arrive at school. Calendar is probably more useful, to be honest, for upper key stage 2. It's a great way of organising Google Meet calls, mainly amongst the staff as well. So I don't really use this as much as I used to. I communicate with the staff by booking out Chromebooks, organising meetings, but I would maybe only really use that for either your own learning or collaborating with the other staff. Now, Screencastify is a brilliant extension, and that is on the Chrome Web Store. And you can record quick 5-minute instructional videos for free. So if you're not as confident presenting on Google Classroom, what you can do is, I'll show you in a moment, give a quick 5-minute, the free version is 5 minutes. You can buy premium to get unlimited, but you can also record a video 5 minutes long. You can have the webcam on so you can see yourself in the corner of the screen, and you can share it straight to Google Classroom or YouTube even, without having to upload it and all of this. So it's really, really good. And if I quickly show you here, this is a video I did for staff. I just mute myself. But I made this quick video on how to use Google Classroom when setting a task. And basically, I've just shown them on here what I was showing you earlier about viewing the different pupil work. So as you can see, just skipped off there. But I chose not to have my webcam on this particular video, but the webcam can go in there as well. So it's a really good way of modeling the work without having to do it live. And I think maybe, some of you are settling into your new school, that might be the way to start with. And you can obviously play the video live. It's just a really good way of just really refining that input. WeVideo, cloud-based platform. You can use it to edit videos, create GIFs, create podcasts. Really good tool. There is a free version and a paid version, but the children as well, because it's integrated with Google, you can post tasks on Classroom. The pupils can log in with their Google account and create video content as well. For example, we did an e-safety vlog, which the pupils loved because they thought they were YouTubers for the afternoon. But you can also create GIFs. We've done that before with long division, so pointing out what to remember as well. And finally, Soundtrap. Soundtrap's a music and podcast making application. We've created a school podcast called the Spring Life Podcast, and the pupils love interacting with Soundtrap and creating their own podcast, which is on Spotify and other podcast platforms. So they really do feel like celebrities when they are recording their podcasts. It does rival GarageBand, so it's a free version. You can use Google accounts to sign in, and it's a great way of doing music lessons, of course, whilst you're not in school. So the next steps following today's training, I have on here a link to Google Educators, Hull and East Yorkshire Google Educators, which is why it's Hey Google Educators. And it's a little forum in which we can share ideas, try some of the things that we've discussed tonight, see what works, see what doesn't work, and continuously improve ourselves as educators. Now, step 2, I would highly recommend that you create a Google Classroom. It could be one for staff training for yourself, or it could be one for the class that you have or the target children. But just get used to creating it. You don't have to set daily tasks on there if you're using a different classroom, but it's just really good practice to look at some of the skills that you have learned today. And step 3, continue your journey. So in a moment, I'll talk about the Google Certified Educator Level 1 course, which I'm running late February 2021 after half term. and that will basically go into a lot more detail than we've had time for tonight, because it's a 6-week course, one night a week. I think it's around an hour and a half per session. And step number 4, the most important one, you explore the technology, because you learn so much more. It's a little bit like driving. Once you've done it, once you've passed, you learn so much more just by gaining experience. So remember, like we said before, this is just the start of your journey using Google for Education. So there is a Q&A time here. So if you've got any questions, fire away in the chat. If not, we will just finish with a Kahoot before we go. Actually, I think because we're short of time, I think we'll finish on the PolEv instead. So pop some questions in the chat for me, and I'll leave the information for the Google Educator Level 1 course as well. If you want to get on the courses, there is limited places, unfortunately. So if you just fire me an email across, that can sort of guarantee, hopefully, an opportunity to do the Google Educator Level 1. Does anybody have any questions? And it's been quite a lot of information tonight. So if you do think of anything later on, please drop me an email. More than happy to help and sort of refine those skills. I'm going to leave this up here. Please complete the course survey. I'm going to send you the link now for that, and just to help me really provide me with some feedback on how you found this evening. And before you go, I'd like you to go back onto the PolEv and answer this final question for me. Who is feeling confident and ready to dive into the world of blended learning? So back on the PolEv, just like before, who is ready to dive into the world of blended learning? And also make sure, if you've got any questions, please pop them in the chat before we go. Some of you probably logged out of PolEv, so we'll get yourself back on. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. That's really great. Thank you. So yeah, if you get a chance, access the link just like before, answer the question before you go, and also please fill in the survey. I'm going to post the links to the slides as well here, but if you want to request them, you can email me on the email address, which I'm going to pop in the chat. Was the PolEv showing the previous question? Let's have a look. Maybe refresh the page. Let's go on to the next question. There we go, that should work. There we go. Some great confidence there. Great stuff. Thank you, Kelsey. There is my email address if you'd like to ask any more questions. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been a pleasure to share with you some of the ideas of Google for Education. It's great to see that a lot of us are feeling really confident. For those who have voted no, please do not hesitate to drop me an email, and I'll see what I can do to help you, because obviously we've only had an hour, and it's really, like we said before with the iceberg, it's such a huge area to cover to be able to provide a little bit more detail. Of course, the Google Education Level 1 has a lot more detail as well. No problem at all. J2E as well. Any questions about that, you can forward an email as well. Great stuff, Liam. Glad that you've enjoyed it. Thank you, Jem, as well. Thank you, Amy. Thank you both, Amy's actually. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Nicole. See who's feeling confident. Quite a lot of us. That's brilliant. Please complete the Google form as well that I'd sent out, just to ask some feedback there. And really quickly, I'm just going to share with you the slides again. Just there. Thank you, guys. And I will hopefully see you around in the teaching profession. Just going to stop my recording. Any further questions, I'm going to hang around for 5